And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Isabel Lee in today for Katie Greifeld. We're taking you through to that closing bell with a global simulcast. Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec, they join us now. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, television, radio, our partnership with YouTube. A severe global sell-off in equity markets has started in Korea. And unless something changes in the next minute and a half, Carol, it looks like it's going to extend here into the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. Right across the screen for the most part, Dow Jones Industrial Average, slight gain there. But look at something like those chip names that trade here in the United States. Philadelphia Stock Exchange Semiconductor Index, the SOX. Guys, it is down just off its lows of the session, but still down about 7.8% today.
You know, we've talked to quite a few people over the last 2 hours, Isabel, on the markets. And every person we've spoken to, including Jay Hatfield just now, are basically saying this is not a reset. This is just a little bit of a pullback. He's still got a price target on the S&P 500 of 9,000 by the end of the year this year. He's extremely
gain from here.
From here, he's extremely bullish.
Okay.
9,000 is extremely
He called today a quote shipwreck.
Oh, nice.
Shipwreck.
Like a shipwreck. Romaine and I were just talking to Nora about Carnival, so I guess we're in the theme of cruises.
Good decliner.
But to your point, yes, year to date, the S&P is still higher by something like 7%. NASDAQ is up by something like 18%. So we're doing okay. I do want to point out the disparity, the growing disparity between the two of them, especially as the AI rally continues. Maybe we're going to see the NASDAQ really leave the S&P to trail behind.
I do want to underscore the volatility in this market. The VIX is elevated, but I want you to take a look at the VIX on your Bloomberg terminal, which tracks the NASDAQ 100 volatility. At one point, hitting 33, the highest level over the last 52 weeks with 34 here. And we talk about the swing, 16 trading days so far in the month of June. And about half of those days, we've seen a move up or down of 2% on the NASDAQ 100. Today is no different. That move is down 3%, a loss of 1,000 points on the NASDAQ 100, or 3.3%. The NASDAQ composite down 600 points, or 2.2%. The S&P 500 down 107 points, or 1.4%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, which had been in the green just a second ago, going to finish the day in the red, down about 0.1%. And the Russell 2000 also being dragged down today, down about 29 points, or 1%.
All right. So a lot of red across the screen. Going back to the S&P 500, guys, though, you dig, Isabel, into that index, and you find 285 names higher for the Tuesday trade, 217 losing ground, and 1 unchanged.
Let's now take a look at the IMAP. You're looking at this big wheel I love to look at, and it's mostly red, though we see some pockets of green there. Of course, tech is down nearly 4%. Materials is also down 2.5%. Communication, 0.6%. Consumer discretionary also in the red, but in the green are consumer staples. We also have healthcare higher by 1%.
All right, guys, let's get to some individual gainers. IBM, a top gainer in the S&P 500 today. That stock up about 5% in the Tuesday trade. JP Morgan upgrading it to overweight from neutral. Separately, the company announced it has joined the OpenAI Daybreak Cyber Partner Program. The analyst over at JP Morgan says the upgrade reflects greater confidence in software acceleration ahead. Price target set to $291. The stock closing at $264 and change. IBM, by the way, has about 16 buys, 6 holds, and 1 sell rating among analysts tracked by Bloomberg. That press release, though, after a close on Monday that we also got from IBM, it noted that this pact with OpenAI would bring advanced AI capabilities into security operations to help enterprises counter machine speed threats. I don't know what that means, but let's go to some earnings crossing the Bloomberg terminal.
FedEx, the shipping company, reporting earnings right now for the most recent quarter. This is their fiscal fourth quarter that just ended. It does look like a beat. Federal Express revenue up $21.57 billion. That's a 14% jump. That's just for the FedEx business. And I say that because they just spun off their freight business. If you include that freight business, revenue was up 13% to $25 billion. Operating margins expanded to 8.4%. Operating income was also up about 3.4%. EPS also looked like it beat at 6.31. Now, we should point out, these fourth quarter numbers include the freight business, which has just been spun out. They're giving a forecast for the full year, that excludes the freight business, as you will. They're also moving from a fiscal year to the full calendar year reporting. So it gets a little tricky, but they're saying for the full calendar year 2026, they expect to see adjusted EPS from continuing operations of $16.90 a share to $18.10 a share. It's going to take us a while to get you a good comparison here on how that stacks up with analyst estimates here. But overall, for the most recent quarter, it does look like a slight beat on several of the key metrics.
Yeah, keep in mind FedEx on quite a tear this year, up about 36% year to date. We are seeing the stock trend about 1.6% lower. Raj Subramaniam, he is the FedEx president and CEO, in the press release saying this, a direct quote, "Our profitable growth strategy is working. We are building momentum across our global industrial network, driving structural improvements and winning in high-value growth markets. With the successful spin-off of FedEx Freight, we are entering this next chapter positioned to grow while further optimizing our network, lowering our cost to serve, creating meaningful long-term value, and driving robust free cash flow." So some optimism there.
And just to kind of put a point, sorry, Jim, I just want to put a point on that, too, to what Carol was talking about, because this is a company that's really pivoted towards higher margin businesses, getting rid of some of that, those lower margin kind of packages that you or I would get on our doorstep, focusing a lot more on the B2B. And you saw that with a huge jump in revenue. It was like 10% just on the FedEx side. But if you look at actual volumes, that was only up 2%. So you had a huge gap there between the actual revenue side and the volume side, which seems to suggest, if you're reading between the lines, a little bit more pricing power.
Well, the company actually addressing this, Romaine, I'm glad you went there. The company cited improved segment operating results driven by higher U.S. domestic international priority package yields, talking about continued cost savings from those transformation initiatives that you referenced, Romaine, increased U.S. domestic and international export package volume. However, those factors were partially offset by increased purchase transportation and wage rates, higher variable incentive compensation expenses, and the financial impacts of global trade policy changes. So some of those macro and micro factors affecting the bottom line, too.
And FedEx is seen as this economic barometer because its parcel business really just carries this huge array of stuff for all kinds of consumers in all kinds of places. But I wonder if after the spinoff, they will still be looked upon as an economic barometer, especially after, to Romaine's point earlier, it's going to take a while for us to compare it to something.
Hey, here's something that's interesting, too. Under cash and capital returns, they talked about cash and cash equivalents balance of about $13.3 billion, including a $4.1 billion cash dividend from the FedEx Freight spinoff. But it also says, in addition, the reported cash balance includes approximately $800 million in IEEPA tariff refunds held for refund to customers. So that process is certainly happening.
Yeah, a few of those dollars, I think, belong to me. So
how are you going to get those? Because I think
I don't know. I have no idea how any of this works, but let's just say, IEEPA got a lot of my money.
It'll be in your Venmo account. I think that's how it's going to work.
I do just want to point out, too, just real quickly, we are going to hear from FedEx Freight. They report after the bell on Thursday, the 25th, just to be clear. So we'll get a sense here how that side of the business is holding up as a standalone company.
Okay, let's go back to some other gainers. I mentioned IBM, so I'm going to move on from that. I should point out the whole quantum area, too. President Trump has been keen on that, too, made some comments and some executive orders signed yesterday. You also had IBM's CEO there and Alphabet President Ruth Porat there at the White House yesterday.
I'm really getting interested in this. And when I first started hearing all the quantum stuff, I just thought this is a gobbledygook. But the more I read about it, it seems like there is a little bit more proof of life there. I don't know when it actually translates into real revenue and profitability, but it does appear that there's a lot going on there.
I mean, we're still kind of making our way through AI. Like, where does it fit into all of this?
Yeah, well, it's just kind of an extension of that. And I actually had a chance to interview the CEO just a couple of weeks ago. And he basically said that some of his sort of proof of life targets, the idea that IBM hardware would be used to hit some of those key targets in quantum, that we would actually see that in 2026 by the end of the year.
All right. So we're keeping an eye on that. Some interesting stuff. I agree. There's a lot more activity. Going back to Avis Budget, though, this went up about 2.25%.
This is weird because it's like one of those days where I feel like Tim should start and do all the decliners, given that, we had a 3% down day in the Nasdaq 100.
This is your close. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah. No, keep
Isabel
going.
and I just like watching this.
Keep going, Carol.
That's what we like.
Show.
Finley, what should I do? What should I do? Okay. Avis, 2.2% higher in today's session. They were up as much as almost 6% intraday high earlier in the day. Avis entered into a settlement agreement with Pentwater Capital Management and affiliated persons to resolve a lawsuit seeking recovery of short swing profits. The company says this in a filing. Keep in mind the stock is up about 50% year to date. 32%, though, of the float is short. And one more for you. It's not something we talk about. Ticker is EPC. Edgewell Personal, that stock up about 15% after Bloomberg News reported the maker of Schick razors rejected an unsolicited takeover offer of $30 a share from PE firm Yellowwood Partners. Okay, Tim, all yours.
All right, let's talk about some of these decliners very quickly. There were so many stocks in the chip sector that declined. I just did the entire index. All 30 names in the stocks fell today, down 7.9%. Let's round that up to 8%. It's still up 90% this year, though. But the slump today followed what we saw in Asia overnight, with Samsung and SK Hynix plunging more than 10%. This is the one I really want to talk about, though, guys. Robinhood and DraftKings both fell today. This after the New York Times reported that Meta Platform CEO Mark Zuckerberg directed a small team to create a smartphone app similar to Kalshi and Polymarket. You had Robinhood fall by 2.3%, DraftKings fall by 2%. Here's the thing, though. This app will probably use a video game-like point system, and it would not wager any money. Does this actually produce results that are accurate with predicting the future if you don't have any actual skin in the game?
Yeah, I don't know what these people are doing, to be honest with you, Tim. And every day now and then I watch your show. Can you change the crypto show to something else, please?
Prediction market show?
Yeah, why not?
I mean,
Yeah.
there is an argument to be made that a lot of it's happening on the blockchain, so, you know.
Sure.
I know it's very
Whatever
interesting to you.
Yeah, whatever you say.
Yeah.
All right. Are we done?
How's Andrew Cuomo doing?
He's getting into
I hear he's a crypto
advising the New York Stock Exchange owner, Intercontinental Exchange.
Yeah, we have to go. Can we go before we get our...
I'm
just
just
asked me a
waiting for you
question.
to stop talking. Oh my God, Isabel. I mean,
Poor
can
Isabel.
somebody close that mic? Just
No.
knock it off.
It never goes off, actually.